Welcome to the Red Beam Podcast, the New Orleans edition. This is your host, Mr. Toad.
And I'm Dr. Frog.
This is a movie I've been wanting to rewatch because the last time I saw this film was when it launched in 1995.
Yeah, what a year. I mean, a year after Pulp Fiction, I think a year or two after Jurassic Park in 93. There were so many great movies in the mid-90s. This is definitely one of them.
So we're going to be talking about the movie Jumanji. We also noticed that there is a Jumanji 2, but they don't call it that.
Is that the one with The Rock, Dwayne Johnson?
That was a remake or redo?
That happened in 2017.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that... there was Zarthura, which is in the world of Jumanji. So I know that someone...
It's like a space one.
They bought the rights to do the same kind of story just with sci-fi and space. But this one had a very different theme. It was jungles and animals.
Yeah.
Jungle animals. Even though I noticed that there's a mix of safari speaking in there, if you think of like African animals mixed in with the jungles.
I liked the special effects. When you watch this movie, it really brings you back to a time when I really think special effects was taken a lot more seriously. I think nowadays it's like, let's just CGI as much as we can, even as crazy and unrealistic as it is. And I guess it's just cheaper, but I don't know, making a set, making models, tearing like the image of the house being split in half. We're trying not to get into spoiler territory, but we're going in there.
Yeah. Or, I'm thinking of the little rhinoceros trotting behind the rest of the stampede. There was some real care put into that in the same way that a few of the Jurassic Park dinosaurs were CG'd. And I think the Tyrannosaurus first coming out of the electric paddock it had after the electricity went off was one of them. But it looked fairly realistic. And I think the only CG that didn't look very realistic to me was the monkeys.
Yeah, the monkeys were definitely not realistic.
I think it was that the eyes took up a third of the space of their head. It looked a little bit over the top. Cartoonish, perhaps.
Yeah.
Cartoonish eyes.
I'm starting to... let's read into the storyline a little bit. I'll read the synopsis so our audience kind of knows that we're talking about the 1995 movie Jumanji, which is the
Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams, the late Robin Williams. So Jumanji is one of the most unique and dangerous board games ever. Falls into the hands of the curious teen Alan Parrish in 1969. Mysterious and magical, the game strands the unsuspecting boy in the lush, savage forest of a mythical realm. Nearly 3 decades later, the game releases him before the old-eyed of the young orphan siblings, Jody and Peter Shepard. Now the wild and insistent beat of the jungle's tribal drums is calling for the now adult Alan and the other hesitant players, as the one who rolls the dice must never leave undone. But the roll has started. Has anyone ever escaped from the game and Jumanji? Formidable foes.
Interesting. Yeah, there were foes. Some of them were animals. Some of them were humans, like hunters.
Yes, the hunter.
Some of them were the natural elements themselves, like monsoons and storms. And
I was blown away by the actor James Handy, who played the Exterminator.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I didn't know the Exterminator was the official name of the...
No, actually, no, I take it back. It was called Van Pelt.
Yes.
And it was Jonathan Hyde.
Hyde, yes, because the other one, wasn't... let's see, Hyde...
He played in the movie Anaconda. He was in the movie Mummy and the Titanic.
Wow. So you really had an all-star cast here in Jumanji. It wasn't just...
Yep, and he was also in the TV show called The Strand as well. Let's see who else. We had Robin Williams, who was playing Alan Parrish. Kirsten Dunst as Judy Shepard. When I saw her, I couldn't believe how young she was in this film.
Oh, Kirsten Dunst, yes. A young Kirsten Dunst. Excellent role as well. I think she did a great job of, kind of having that dumbfounded look and being dragged along for the adventure.
I like that she kind of played along with these like elaborate stories that would just like.
It was all mind blowing, and we talked about this with the Keanu Reeves, movie, but sometimes there's that dumbfounded expression where you just kind of get dragged along by others with fantastic tales, and she kind of tries to convince herself that it's not real throughout her life, and yet the unbelievable still happens. So.
I also really liked David Alan Grier.
David Alan Grier, was he the police officer?
His name was Bentley in the movie, and basically he was the police officer.
I should recognize him. Yeah, he did. His expressions, there was this kind of like crying, open, like whining face whenever something ridiculous was happening, whether it was the animals stampeding the store or him. I mean, he had a rough day at the office. His car I feel like everything happened to his car, though. It started by getting shotgunned by monkeys. It got dragged into the woods by plants. Poor car.
Yeah, he kept crying about his car because it just kept getting smashed. And eventually the monkeys got it, and then the plant took it away.
Took it into and then he just said, "Fine, forget it."
Yeah, he's like,
up on it.
It's like, I can't fight this anymore.
This is hilarious.
What I do
There's
like
a lot of physical comedy throughout.
I like this kind of a slapstick kind of humor to it. I did find some interesting production notes. Originally, Tom Hanks was the first choice to play Alan Parrish, but he turned it down due to his commitment to Apollo 13. Bruce Willis was unavailable due to working on Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
Other co-stars included Dan Aykroyd, Michael Keaton, Chevy Chase.
I could picture Brad Pitt,
Sean Penn, Kevin Costner, and Richard Dreyfuss, Michael Douglas, and Robert Everett, Harrison Ford, and Sean Connery. So all these people had the possibility. Bill Paxton, that would have been weird.
Did you say Sean Connery as well?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Brian Cranston.
Get down, kids. The animals are coming.
And then Arnold, oh my gosh, children, we gotta keep throwing the dice.
Because Kindergarten Cop was
a couple years later.
That's amazing.
And Alec Baldwin, he would actually just be mean to kids.
I don't think so.
I think he'd just,
same thing. I think Bruce Willis would bring the intensity, but I just don't see him with the kids. I think the one thing that Robin Williams did bring is the character was supposed to be this boy that was trapped in the jungle for years. Not supposedly civilized, right? Throughout the 26 years that the boy was trapped in Jumanji, and Robin Williams does have that young, boyish energy that he brings to some of his roles. He can tap into that kid mindset of, "Oh my gosh, what is this?" Or that excitement and bewilderment. You see this with some of his other roles, the way he connects to children in Patch Adams, or the way he connects to kids in Good Will Hunting. There's a very, very kind of raw emotion that he brings to it. It almost reminds me of the physical comedy of Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Almost. Jim Carrey brings that kind of...
But I think Jim Carrey is loud and crazy, while I feel like Robin Williams is loud, but he's more controlled, and he knows when to go crazy and when not to go crazy. But with Jim Carrey, he's just like, how about
this? Maybe Jim Carrey, when he goes crazy, he expresses it to the world. When Robin Williams goes crazy, he expresses it to the other character. So it was when he was holding the character with the intense look in their eyes, and he said, "I'm sorry, it's been 26 years. I'm that boy." There's that intensity, but it's controlled.
I think what makes Jim Carrey unique in his acting role is he was made for the movie The Mask. Because it's outlandish.
Didn't that come out in 94 or so?
Yep, 94. So this is
all
a
of
year.
These movies were within a year or two of each other.
I know, 94. You had
Die Hard was 92.
92.
But Vengeance was the sequel.
Yeah.
If they were looking for crazy, I'm surprised they didn't go with Brad Pitt, because in 12 Monkeys in the 80s, he played a zany character pretty well.
The problem he plays an aggressive character, but not a hard character.
Yeah, and maybe
and Rob Williams, you had to have someone with heart.
Really. Someone who could work with the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be all weird and demented in front of the kids. That would have been it probably would have done not so well.
Yeah.
I think what it was also interesting was the other characters
would have had to have more therapy than
the character. Some of the people who were also considered for Jodie Shepherd was Jodie Foster.
Oh, Jodie Foster, I can picture that. Yeah.
Demi Moore.
Okay.
Madonna.
Look at the people being considered for this.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
And Kirstie Alley.
Okay.
And Scarlett Johansson.
This is for Judy. They must have been, I can see, yeah, because this was mid-90s. And so is this the one that Judy was the teen, the 90s teen, rather than the 60s teen? Kirsten Dunst played the adult version of the 1960s teen.
I think what's also interesting was the reception and the box office. It says Jumanji did well at the box office, opening at #1 and overtaking Toy Story. Earning approximately $11 million in its first weekend.
And that's amazing.
The film collected $100.5 million in the United States and Canada, and an additional $162.3 million overseas, bringing the world gross to $262.8 million. Which makes sense that they brought so much money in that when they did essentially Jumanji Part 2, which they don't call it Jumanji Part 2, it's like the floating Azeroth, or...
It's not Zarathustra.
It's like space or something. It was so bizarre.
It starts with a Z. It's like Zarathustra or something.
We're going to be pulling it up here. Zathura. And so essentially, this is a part 2 to Jumanji. Yeah. But here's the thing. I believe, and I'll put images up there, this Zathura was also written by the same person who wrote Jumanji.
Zathura. Yeah, it's set in the world of Jumanji, so it must have been the same author or something.
Yeah. We didn't watch this movie.
Still Sony Productions.
It did look very bizarre looking when we were watching.
Well, I remember I watched it when I was a kid. I think it was. I feel bad because it was a bit forgettable. What I remember is the effects of looking at space and the explosions and the meteors and things. All of that was fantastic. And really, that was one of those movies that you go in the theater to see the big explosions.
And then you just like walked away and just got.
Yeah, you're not looking for character development in some of these stories.
It said in this Zathura, A Space Adventure, the film lost 62% of its audience the following weekend.
The following weekend, yeah.
So it
not
killed
reviews.
Half the people that saw this was like...
It's before Rotten Tomatoes, so you can't blame the websites back then.
No.
This is just word of mouth. Is it worth it to go?
I just think that Jumanji is a movie about, heart. Robin Williams really cared. You kind of see he was standoffish with the kids because he himself was a kid who happened to be living in these jungles.
There's some themes of accountability.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of messages about being a man, I noticed as well. There's a lot of tell the truth, right? Be accountable for what you do and your actions. And Robin Williams, let's say, owning up to ruining the sneaker at the end versus the beginning is something that I think he learned well when he started the game. It says if you plan to play the game, finish it. So you have to finish the game.
What I did like about...
There's a little bit of, following through with what you've started.
Because Sarah Whittle didn't want to play the game. She ran off. But she was a young girl, and she was, basically plagued her whole life trying to convince people that this was real.
Well, and the thing is, her first roll, which, to be honest, I don't even think that was an attempt at playing. She just dropped the dice on the board, and it, started the game. So that's the thing that annoyed me. She wasn't bought in, even when she dropped the dice.
Oh, this is hilarious.
But her first roll, it sucked in her friend for 26 years.
Here's something that is a complete plot twist. I didn't even realize this.
Really?
Jonathan Hyde played as Sam Parrish, as the father of Ron Williams in the film, as Alan Parrish's. So Sam Parrish is the father of Alan Parrish. And Jonathan Hyde not only played Sam Parrish, but he also played Van Pelt.
Really?
So the same actor who is the father also plays as the gunman.
I wondered that with the bone structure, but here's the thing. I'm wondering, is there a metaphor there with Robin Williams having to overcome the judgment of his father or the dislike? He feels like his father's out to get him. His father wants
literally his father was getting him. He was trying to shoot him.
Well, and in before they resolved their differences and said, let's talk about this man to man later, He was going to be sent to boarding school, Robin Carrick.
I did like this idea that Robin Williams' character, Alan Parrish, at the end stood up against what scared him. Yeah. He stood up against this hunter. He's like, I'm not running away, and he's pointing the rifle at him. And then, as he notices the dice, and he notices his little piece rolls right in.
Any last words? And
then he looks at it, and then you see the little screen saying in a blurry image, Jumanji.
Yeah, because he landed in the middle,
and he won.
You know what I would like to do is count the number of spaces on that board, and then to go back and see what the people's rolls actually were. Because I'm not sure if he actually completed the amount of rolling required to actually go through the board. If I go to the...
We would have to rewatch the whole film.
Because you have to think, if there are 4 people rolling, you're dividing the number of extreme events they went through by 4.
Because...
I mean, he only rolled maybe 3 or 4 times, right?
Yeah, but I think he rolled some high numbers, though.
Well, that's true.
I will say the special...
They had to go back a few times as well.
What I did like about Jumanji as well is the animals, how they played a role in the film, how the plants, that creature kind of reminded me of Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, it was. It reminded me of a Mangora or something. There's this type of plant. It shows up in a bunch of different mythology, but it has vines, and some people call it a man-eater. Some people call it a
like it's poisonous or something.
But it grabs you and it pulls you in, and then it eats you. And it has those 4 kind of spiny lips that open up.
Yeah.
It reminds me of maybe Picasso's or the dentata that used to be shown for certain flowers and lips, which actually used to be a sort of a fear of the feminine, was its interpretation in the 1500s and
I like that
1600s.
They had a lion jumping around.
They had a lion. The lion chilled in the bedroom. By the way. I mean, I liked how they dealt with the lion. Just put it in the bedroom and close the door, and now you're done. The lion, I guess, is just chill in the bedroom.
I did like this idea of carrying this wooden box that you open up. And, and it was just like a very high-end kind
low tech.
Yeah, low tech, but good quality.
And it brings the mysteriousness and the mysticalness out of it because it isn't you don't require an outlet to play, right? It's not technology. So you could believe that it's existed for hundreds or thousands of years.
I did like the part where the kid, he threw the dice and he was trying to get to that number to win, but then the game noticed
he's trying to drop it on the number 12.
Yeah, and the game's like you're cheating, and then it started turning him into like an ape or something.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be a metaphor for puberty or something because he grows hair
on his hand,
and then he has his tail grows long.
Yeah, his tail.
There's a little bit of embarrassment that he has, and I think it affects his speech. But the look of his aunt, the one who was taking in him and his sister after their mother and father died, was hilarious, when he came in and said, "Hey," and he was holding an axe, turning into a monkey.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a lion because the hair was all around the face and it had the tail.
What I do like about this film is that there's a scene with the daughter who's like the caregiver of the children.
Yeah.
And she's all talking about self-control and breathing and you're in charge. And all of a sudden she stops her car and it's like some type of traffic. She's like, oh, something's going on. And it's just animals running across. They
had a lot of little humorous digs. One was at self-help and therapy.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of all right, yeah, whatever, let's play the game more, And then another one was in the gun shop.
Yeah.
When they were making fun of wait times and having to fill out forms.
And he's like, here's some Spanish doubloon coins.
Yeah, and the guy's like, here's some Spanish doubloon coins. And they shut down the shop and say, okay, go ahead.
What I love about the animals running by, too, is you always had that one really fat hippo or something. There's
a little fat rhino.
A little fat rhino, and he's like just coming along. See,
there it is.
Yeah, he's so tired.
Yeah, and they have a little physical comedy. There's the fat pelican at the end of the Stampede that took the board game for a little bit. It had them move locations. Otherwise, I think what would happen is they would just chill in the house and keep rolling, and then it would be over. So I think that pelican made them move it to the water. Got them outside of the house a little bit of interaction with the community members.
Kind of freak people out.
This was shot at the Jeffrey Center in New Hampshire, by the way. It looked like it was shot in the Midwest. I know it said New Hampshire. I was wondering the actual filming location. But I think they actually did film this in New Hampshire.
Oh, wow. Is the Jumanji house still standing? Oh, wow. Something bad happened in the home. The street address in the film is 1356 Jefferson Street, but the exterior of the parish mansion was really just an empty temporary vacant.
Oh.
They built on a vacant lot in Vancouver.
Oh, it was in Vancouver.
Yeah, it was 1438 Belfour Avenue in British Columbia. To be exact. A real house has since been built on the site.
I had no idea. So it was shot in Vancouver. Vancouver has a growing
film industry.
Film industry,
yeah.
It's like the Las Vegas.
So it's interesting that the house that
especially for voice acting
associated with it was,
very cool.
But I did like that whole image of the house splitting in half and just like
they had some good computer graphics.
Good imagery. So this idea of the home splitting, it's talking about how people themselves are splitting because of all the stress that the Jumanji is giving into them.
If there was a theme that Jumanji had, no matter where they were, whether it was the shopping mall or the house, it's to take the mundane and make it epic.
Yep.
So they made the monsoon epic. The water that rushed out of the front door.
The plants were epic.
It wasn't just the water that rushed out. It was carrying them down the street.
Yep.
So it took everything and just made it epic proportions out of the ordinary.
Also, I like that the actors, everyone was just kind of battling their own internal. You had one kid, he didn't want to say anything. He was a mute, pretty much.
Yeah.
You had Robin Williams, who was just like, I need to get through this as quickly as possible because he's dealing with trauma of being stuck for 26 years. Yeah. And then you have the lady who has had her own psychological issues.
The police officer as well, struggling a little bit.
Yeah, because the shoe got caught up in the machine. He got fired from his job, and he never really was able to save the town in the way he really wanted to. So he had no choice but join the police.
So it's a show that you can get caught up with all the externalities happening, but it's really about internal growth. And I think that's where the themes of accountability and owning up to what the truth is and who you are is part of underlying themes that I saw throughout the movie.
I just can't believe that the father and the hunter are the same people.
Good actor.
But when you see an image of them side by side, you can definitely see it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The nose is very similar between the two.
I love the, like you were saying, the gun scene. I love what the guy says. He's like, man, we haven't seen one of these things made since 1901.
1903.
1903. And I'm like, oh, geez.
They stopped printing these.
And you're like, I'll just take care of your paperwork. We're just going to give you the craziest weapon you want and just let you on your way.
I wondered, the 1990s teen who lied to the real estate agent about how her parents died, they were like, oh, they were on a safari in the deep jungles and blah, 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 and got killed. I thought it was interesting that lie ended up somewhat playing into what happened during Jumanji. So I think it started out with her making a ridiculous story up, and then suddenly, the story is becoming real. They actually have Jumanji board games and pieces as well.
I'm looking at it, and Jumanji 1995 board game piece statue set by Chronicle Collectibles.
Wow.
I guess there's no disclaimer that if you stop playing the game, you'll be trapped in...
I guess that's up for you to say. Maybe people who got sucked into Jumanji aren't here to tell us how the game went.
Yeah, because the aspect of the film, which I thought was interesting, is that this has been around a long time. So they had some scene from like the 1800s, and they're just like trying to bury the thing. They're just like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Right? So you wonder, like, how many people have died from playing Jumanji? I mean, it's kind of morbid to think about it. That's why I said this is kind of like a borderline. You could make a horror film that has this element in it.
Well, and what did they do at the end? They got rid of it just by tossing it in the river or something?
Yeah.
And you saw, it was still half out of the water with the sand over it.
Well, no, it got washed up probably in India or something.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, someone's going to find it again.
Exactly. And the drum beat's going again. So this thing is like...
I had the exact same...
This thing is like plaguing the human race. I almost feel this is the kind of thing you just give to the Federal Reserve. Or, you sent it to Fort Knox.
I mean, this just reminds me...
Throw it in there and forget about it.
And I'm sorry to drop a Final Fantasy XIV reference near the end, but this reminds me of the story 3.3 at the end of the Dragon Song War. When they have Nidhogg's eyes, the most powerful things on the planet, and they just toss them into the abyss, thinking anyone who goes into the abyss can just find them, Wow. If you have the most powerful things. Why would you just throw it, throw it really far?
I will say I did like the board game image of it. When they open it up, it was made of wood.
Oh, yeah.
Very classy looking.
It's always clean, no broken pieces. So it adds to the idea of the mysterious ancient power of it, right?
And then you had that little bulb inside of it. It was like its own little, almost like a little TV screen in there, basically.
You almost expected the Cenobites to be summoned when you opened it, right?
They just like tear you apart. Oh no!
Jumanji.
Can I throw it? Whoa! Before you chop me up, can I throw a dice down? Come on!
Yeah.
Let's make a deal. I can throw a dice.
Double zero twice.
So overall, I think, what would you rate this movie? 1 out of 10.
I'm saying an 8.
I'm going to definitely say about an 8 as well.
Yeah,
and the reason I say that is that in some areas it was a little long, but overall, I thought the acting from Robin Williams, legendary.
Legendary acting. It didn't take itself too seriously, even if it had some running themes about adulthood in it. What it means to be a man, what it means to be an adult, what it means to take accountability. It had some nice themes. It did have a bit of what I've noticed in a lot of 1990s movies where there's always this makeshift family that comes together. 2 kids, a guy and a gal, throw them together. None of them are, they're all from broken families in one way or another, or dysfunctional families. But you throw them together and somehow they make it work. It reminds me of, in Jurassic Park, for example, you had Alan Grant and Ellie Hatter, and they just kind of ended up having to take on those roles with John Hammond's grandkids. But, you see this theme a lot in the mid-90s, especially. They just kind of, all right, 4 people, let's go. And they came together as a unit at the end. Remember, they were doing, let's go, hands in the middle, let's finish it. Yeah.
It was like Team 3 Mighty Ducks or something.
Teaming up against the wild.
We're teaming up against this possessed nature, board game that's going to torture
evil of this. And a lot of the forces were natural animals, natural events like monsoons and
like plants
and animals, and again, it was kind of
human.
It was kind of a hey, we're going to come together as a family unit and tackle these things. And now, one thing at the end that I didn't quite like as much. So when they finish the game,
yes,
Robin Williams and
they go right back to the time.
They go back to when they were their kid, right at that moment, right? And I presume that the 90s kids go back to their moment in that house before they started playing. Now, when they started playing, it was after their parents had died, and it was after they've moved into this big house, but it was before they started playing Jumanji. But there was this sort of twinkle in the eye when they were at a dinner party 26 years later, when they met the kids and the parents were still alive before their trip, and it made me wonder, does the way that the metaphysics of time travel happen, is it that those kids don't know yet, and then suddenly in a split instant, after that time happens that they go back, suddenly they'll have all those experiences? Because it made it seem like everyone had the experiences then.
I think what they were trying to point at, and the big idea would be, how can I explain this? Basically, when they won the game, they went right back to that specific time period, just like you were saying.
The adults did, and the kids.
Here's the big thing, though. They had all sorts of knowledge of being adults already, being kids. So I think
the adults did, yeah.
So for them, one of the positive aspects is they met the parents of the children before they went on that trip.
So they could save them.
Yeah, I'm talking about the perspectives of the kids. The kids would have just been like, "Oh, who are these cool people?"
Yeah, they wouldn't have known.
They would not know that, no.
But
they didn't have that experience.
But here's where the time travel, and this deals with reverse engineering the time travel.
So you're saying the kids should have the memories?
No. I'm saying if those kids time travel back to that point, then they would be in a timeline, or maybe alternate timeline, where their parents are dead. Right? They're in the house, the parents are dead, they haven't played the board game yet. And they have all the memories of having played it. Now, you could say what happens is if you save the parents, is that a separate timeline and those kids will never have the memories that those other kids have?
Yeah.
Or are you going to have to say, like, those kids that now have those memories are just on a different timeline, will never see Robin Williams' character?
See, I don't look at this as a time thing, and I know...
But there was time travel, consciousness travel.
Here's the thing that makes it different, though. I don't think... the time travel relates to when you played the game. So they played the game in 19...
But when they went back in time is before they played the game.
No, they played it like right as the game ended. It ended at that moment. So in 1969, when they started playing the game, and the girl ran out the building, and he went into the 26 years into a wilderness within that world. The time that you played the game is where you are within the frame of time of like having the...
But here's the problem. They finished it in the 90s.
Yes, but then they went back to when it was
And my question is, when it was first played. When they went back to... So if we assume that for the adults, which we know, we're assuming that for the kids as well. The kids went back to the first time they played. Then the first time that those kids played, they were already in the house. Their parents were already dead.
Yes.
That's where I'm thinking... If the Robin Williams characters prevent the death of the kids,
parents,
it's got to make an alternate timeline then.
Yeah, that would be an alternate time. You are correct.
Because the kids who have the parents already dead know about it. They wouldn't suddenly appear in a different location with their parents.
It would be an alternate reality.
It would have to be an alternate timeline,
which would be better because then the parents would be there, and then these people could kind of because they know them.
Yeah.
Because they've spent time with them.
It'd be kind of sad for the kids, though, because then they'd have no one to share it with. Robin Williams still isn't around. And the lady isn't around. Or if she is, maybe she's really depressed or something.
I'm going to, before we wrap this up,
yes.
I'm going to give at least one piece of trivia here. Did you know Robin Williams was beloved by Keene and New Hampshire townsfolk during filming? He was even presented with the keys to the city by Keene's mayor in 1994. After his death in 2014, Keene's residents crafted a makeshift memorial of flowers and candles below the parish sign, and even organized a public screening of the film.
So the parish sign, so they did actually, some of this was in New Hampshire then?
Yes.
Yeah.
The filming of the shoe factory.
Yeah, I thought it was in Vancouver. That was just for the house, though.
Also, what's kind of funny is the slow rhino scene at the back of the Stampede at 1 hour and 45 minutes and 4 seconds was an animation error they left in. An incorrect frame rate had been set for the element, making it run slower.
That's funny, though.
They kept it in whilst adding the foot stomp and wheezing sound.
They added in there's just this little guy at the end.
Hey, exactly.
How funny! What a funny goof! It's comedic timing too. It's great.
And I would also say, I guess a spoiler would be the green flames whirl around to form the opening tile, which spirals into a vortex.
Yes.
This is in fact the sequence that occurs when Alan finishes the game near the end.
Oh, because I noticed
the green flash. The
green
flash somehow takes you out of time and space and takes you into the Jumanji world. And then once the game is done, you get thrown out of the Jumanji world. But this all relates to actually, I'm going to take this back. I think if you win the game, then you're the one that goes back to when you were first playing the game. I'm wondering if
the kids might not.
If the kid played the game, the one kid who turned into the monkey, if he won the game, I'm almost wondering if they would have been stuck in 1992.
So does he just stay in the 90s?
Yeah, he'd be stuck in the 90s.
And the house is destroyed.
Yeah.
But who cares, because we care about Robin Williams' character.
He'd probably go to jail or something, or avoiding taxes.
Hopefully they get the monkey thing taken care of.
Yeah, well, I think the monkey thing would have gone away generally, but But this idea of the kid would have won, would they have been stuck in the 90s?
Well, yeah, would that have been the kid's wish?
Yes.
Because it says it returns to your world, so to speak, if you
So
win.
maybe he wished to just go back to where he was from.
So here's
maybe
Robin
that's
Williams.
the takeaway.
He just wants to bully these kids so he can win the game. He's like, no, we're all playing so I can win the game. And, here's another thought. So that swirl is to sort of bring you into the Jumanji world or out of it.
The magic.
Maybe them showing the audience a giant green swirl at the beginning of the movie was to bring us into the Jumanji world.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like, how in 2001 A Space Odyssey, you could, during the intermission, it was completely black and there was that humming of the monolith. And you were sort of doing an up-close front of the monolith. Maybe we were doing a sort of, we're being teleported into the Jumanji universe at the start of the movie. Maybe it was a little symbolism.
One of the things I would definitely take away is this is a wonderful movie to have for your kids, anyone under the age of 10.
It's a family movie. There's something in it for everybody. Even the slight political jokes and things like that, like the gun shop and the toy store. Yeah, there's a lot of little jokes in there.
I think, and the last thing we would say is Chris Van Allsburg is the original writer for Jumanji, and he wrote this in 1981.
Well, there you go.
He also did The Polar Express in 1985.
Oh, I remember that.
So The Polar Express and Jumanji were both made by the same person.
I wonder if he had Newbery Awards for those.
And he did some of the cover art, I believe, for C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia.
Wow.
Very popular. So this is a very accomplished artist and writer.
It's an and editor, right?
Yep.
Oh, covers of edition. Yeah, covers and edition.
But I just think it's neat that he did an illustration for Jumanji. He was the writer for it.
Wonderful.
And so this would make for our show. I think we'll have a wrap up here. I say this is a recommend watch. Recommend. It's a fun family film. Can't go wrong with it. I'm unsure about the rewatchability, but I think, once you've gone on that adventure, you can. It's kind of like a roller coaster. Some people like going on the same roller coaster every time they go to the, Kings Island or Cedar Point or, Busch Gardens, wherever. Yeah. And then other people, you can ride, the roller coaster once and you're good. You don't need to re-experience it. So it's a bit of a roller coaster ride. So that'll make for our review of Jumanji. Definitely a recommend. This is your host, Mr. Doug. And I'm Dr. Frog. Please like and subscribe and have a wonderful day. This is the Red Bean Podcast. Over and out. Take care.